Well, from a networking standpoint, the number one thing you have to remember, because I'm now at a stage in my life where a lot of people want to get to know me. So I see it from the other end. As a younger man, I would introduce myself to people and try to get to know them because they were important. Now I'm on the other side of the equation. The main thing to remember is that if you treat people like you're a fan, then they're going to treat you like you're one of the fans. That's it. If you treat people like a celebrity, they're going to treat you like a fan. So many years ago, even when I was not famous and not even relatively successful or before I had any money, when I would meet famous people, I met a few famous actors through my kickboxing. You'd speak to them one-on-one like a normal person. You'd introduce yourself. You'd ask them their name even, not in an obnoxious way, even if you already know what it is. And the best way to go about it is when you're working the room and you finally get face to face with these people. Do not ask for selfies. Do not ask for pictures. Do not act shocked or surprised or like a fan. Do not worship them. When I was sitting with that famous rapper the other day, I just sat down on the couch and we were shooting the shit man to man for over 45 minutes, an hour. I didn't ask him about his songs. I didn't ask him about his music. And we just talked like men. So that's the best way to network, I guess, is that when you finally do get the opportunity to speak to people, speak to them like a normal person. Otherwise, they're never going to take you seriously.
Elegance in men is a lot more about behavior than the way you dress. It's not a costume you can put on. It's very much your mannerisms and the way that you behave. If you were to put me in sneakers and sweatpants, I would still fit in a top-end restaurant more so than I would have done at 19 wearing a full suit. It's the way you open doors for people, the way that you greet the waiters, the way that you greet the staff, the way that you treat your guests. If you're driving a lady, particularly, and you're not in the West where they will become radical feminists, by all means, get out the car first, walk around the side, open the door. It's something that you can't wear. It's something that you have to be. So read up tips on basic etiquette, how to hold your knife and fork, how to hold a glass of wine by the stem and not by the bowl of it at the top. And you'll fit in a lot more at the better places and seem a lot more elegant, regardless of what you're wearing.
In terms of your local town, if you want to become more of a somebody in your local town, which I think is a very important thing to aspire to do, because especially if you're going to stay there for a very long time, and especially if you're not perhaps as worldly as me and and you're not going to travel as much as I do, the number one thing that I like to do in my hometown and in a new town is to get known in all of the best spots that there are. So if you walk into the best restaurant and they already have a table reserved for you 24/7, or the best bar, they've got a spot at the bar reserved for you 24/7. You'll be surprised how many high net worth people who are worth knowing and women will pick up on that. You'll be surprised that when the waiters and the valet parkers and the hotel receptionists know your name and say, hello, Mr. Tate, and treat you with respect, you'll be surprised how many people pick up on that. So tip very heavily. 1, go to the nice places, treat every member of staff with respect. And before you know it, you'll be better known and more respected in your home city.
Elegance in a woman, to me, is somebody who's never going to embarrass or humiliate you and somebody you'd be very proud to show off. So I don't know if women see it that same way in men, but if you come across as an elegant man, that's the kind of man that she wants to show to her friends, to her parents. Lots of women I date are very keen to show me to their friends or their parents or their families for whatever reason, in the same way that, I'd want to show off a beautiful woman to my friends. But when there's any rough edges, that's the kind of thing that will put you off wanting to show somebody off. So if a woman swears a lot, talks in a very bad manner, maybe has a really horrible accent, dresses a bit too revealing, that's the kind of thing that will make you think, okay, this woman's all right. I like her. I'll keep her at home, but I'm not going to introduce her to my friends. So elegance is certainly something that women should strive for, and men as well.
I used to preach that video games were a waste of time. And 10 to 15 years ago, when I used to say this, they largely were a waste of time. Now, they still are a waste of time. However, time you enjoy wasting isn't necessarily time wasted. So I, for example, like to read books. I read books. I listen to audiobooks. I don't benefit necessarily monetarily from them. They're just entertainment. Instead of watching TV, I read books. Some people play video games. What I would say is, whereas books can make you more interesting as a person, video games, you have to find a way of at least offsetting the damage done by the time you sink into them. by, at the very least, trying to be productive. I don't know, streaming your video gameplay on Rumble, trying to play competitively with other people over the internet and making videos and document your games and try and get some eyes on you. So you're not just isolated by yourself, messing around in your room with your face in a computer screen. I mean, most bad habits and most hobbies and most things that don't necessarily seem that productive can be turned into content creation. And that's something that we teach inside of the real world, regardless what it is. No matter, I mean, if you like shining shoes, if you do it to a professional level, you can create content and get eyes on you and get, advertisers and make money and start a channel based on that. So I think video games are a waste of time still. Yeah, they're still a waste of time and the gamers are going to get mad at me. But there are, extremely famous streamers who make a lot of money playing video games. And people say like, oh, well, they play video games. I should do the same thing. They're not just video game players though. They're entertainers. They're charismatic. They're hosting a show. They're funny. Their character looks good. I don't know. But these people who host the video game streams are more than just players themselves, because it's not the video games people are interested in. It's their personality. Spending a lot of money is an investment in your city. Spending a lot of money on vacation, if I'm somewhere where I'm never going to be again, it perhaps matters a lot less. But even if you do something stupid, very stupid, even if you go to the local casino and you gamble $50,000, and, say goodbye to everyone and smile and walk out with a smile on your face, you are now a well-known person. If you go out to a club and spend $25,000 on champagne, a crazy spend that they are never used to seeing, you'll be surprised how often you get asked back and invited back. There's a nightclub actually in Belarus that still messages me to this day, when are you coming back to Belarus? Because they never had anyone walk in there and spend $30,000. So it's a very good way of getting known. And yeah, it is absolutely an investment. It's an investment in your reputation. It's an investment in your reputation, and it's an investment in terms of, what people think of you as a man and your status and your standing, I guess, in the hierarchy of your city.
The first step to giving a proper handshake is not being a weakling. Because if you're weak and skinny and scrawny and you try to give this really hard handshake, it may be a firm handshake, but I also know you're trying too hard. Whereas if you've got big forearms and big hands and big shoulders and you've been training and you look like a strong guy, I expect your handshake to be firm. The number one thing when people say firm handshake is people who don't know how to meet and greet men. They think that you have to squeeze the hand. You don't have to squeeze the hand at all. Less than half a centimeter of actual movement, but your hand should be rigid and unmovable. You can't have a malleable hand in someone's hand where, if they squeeze it slightly, your fingers are going to bend. So nice firm hand. You grab and you squeeze just half a centimeter. That's it. No crushing. No trying to show you're stronger than anyone else. It's just the fact that your hand moves and doesn't give anything back. That makes a firm handshake. If you start squeezing people's hands, they're going to think you're a dick.
I'll be perfectly honest. Geography is one of the most important things to that. There's about 5 or 6 cities in the world where the people hang out, and you have to know the places in those cities where the people hang out. So again, you have to have your dress code right. You have to have your manners right. You have to have at least some money to be able to get into the door of those places. The world works in a very strange way when it comes to high-level men and especially beautiful women as well. Imagine it in terms of 3 different rooms, and one room is free to walk inside, and it's where all the fat chicks and the brokies hang out. One room costs $2,000 to walk inside, just to get in the door. And there are the average looking girls and the guys with a bit of money. And then one room costs $100,000 to walk into, and that's where all the 10 out of 10s hang out, and all the millionaires and billionaires and people you want to network with. That's exactly how the world actually works. That's not a analogy, because all of the places where the people who you want to meet are costs at least some money, or you have to have some type of reputation or some type of standing or some type of network or good friends to actually get into these places.
There's nothing wrong with being a gentleman. The only thing that there's a problem with today is simping. People on the internet who are pretty much incels, who subscribe to a very toxic idea of what red pill masculinity is, will see me with this beautiful girl having purchased these flowers and think simp. For all the young men out there who get very confused by the terms used on the internet, I would say simping is one thing and one thing only. Simping is an unfair exchange of value. That's what simping is. If a girl doesn't know I exist and I found her address, I'm sending flowers to her house just to make her happy, that very much is simping. If I am waiting by the door to my office going into work and trying to open the door for every single woman in the hope that they'll recognize me, that is simping. Buying flowers for a work colleague who isn't interested in you is simping. However, if you are trying to get a woman to take you seriously in terms of starting a relationship with her, then very few things you can do can be considered simping. Because as I said, that's an unfair exchange of value. If the value you get at the end is a girlfriend, or maybe even a wife or a family, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with, buying them flowers, opening the door, opening their car door. Even if you pull up at her house, jump out, run around, open it up, let her in, close the door, run right back around and get in the driver's seat. These are all very standard gentlemanly moves that you can make. It's when you're making them for women who will never have a serious interest in you, that's when it becomes simping.